President, please be seated. The court is now in session. Today, the chamber continues to hear testimony of Sopunyamin, the civil party, and will comment hearing testimony of a witness to TCW 832. Ms. Sakawati, please report the attendance of the parties and other individuals at today's proceedings. Grazie, Mr. President. For today's proceedings, all parties to this case are present. Mr. Noonchi is present in the holding cell downstairs. He has waived his right to be present in the courtroom. The waiver has been delivered to the greffier. The witness who is to conclude his testimony today, that is Mr. Sospunyamin, is present in the courtroom, and the upcoming witness after the conclusion of this civil party's testimony, that is through TCW 832, confirms that through his knowledge and ability he has no relationship by blood or by law to any of the two accused, that is Noonchi and Keo Sampon, or to any of the civil parties admitted in this case. The witness took an oath this morning before the Iron Club statue. President, thank you. The chamber now decides on the request by Noonchi. The chamber has received a waiver from Noonchi dated 9 September 2015, which notes that due to his health, that is headache, back pain, he cannot sit or concentrate for long, and in order to effectively participate in future hearings, he requests to waive his right to participate in and be present at 9 September 2015 hearing. Having seen the medical report of Noonchi by the duty doctor for the accused at the ECCC, dated 9 September 2015, which notes that Noonchi today has back pain and dizziness while he is sitting, and recommends that the chamber grant him his request so that he can follow the proceedings remotely from the holding cell downstairs. Based on the above information and pursuant to Rule 81.5 of the ECCC internal rules, the chamber grants Noonchi his request to follow today's proceedings remotely from the holding cell downstairs via audio-visual means. The chamber instructs the AV unit personnel to link the proceedings to the room downstairs so that he can follow the proceedings. This applies to the whole day. The chamber will hand the floor to the international co-prosecutor to put question to this civil party, and you have 15 minutes to do so.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, Your Honors, Counsel. Good morning, Mr. Civil Party. We were, when we ended yesterday, we were talking about the period in which you had been forced to leave Svay Kling and live in Dambay district. And we were talking about how the Cham people in Svay Kambet village had been mixed with the Khmer villagers, and that some had to sleep in rice storage huts and underneath the houses of Khmer families. Mr. Civil Party, was the area to which the Cham people were forced to relocate in Dambay district, was this a high-risk area for malaria?
Civil party. Indeed, it was a high-risk area for malaria.
And were the Cham people who had to sleep underneath the houses of Khmer villagers, were they given mosquito nets by the Khmer Rouge soldiers who relocated you there?
No, we were not given anything. Whatever belonging that we had with us, that was it.
Did any of the Cham people in your group die from malaria or starvation after you were moved to Svai Kambet village?
Civil Party, please hold on, and Councillor Copper, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, Your Honours. I'm objecting to this line of questioning. I wanted to object already to the first question as to whether Dambay was a high-risk malaria area. I don't think the witness is qualified to say so. The witness is also not qualified due to a lack of medical background, whether people died of malaria or malnutrition or for other reasons. If he had been working in a hospital, maybe yes, but not as an ordinary citizen.
Mr. President, I think the witness has some knowledge of what happened to the families that were sent with him. We can find out what he knows and what he doesn't know, and the defense are certainly entitled to cross-examine him. He's made statements on this issue in his interviews and civil party papers, so it's a matter I believe we're entitled to ask questions on.
President, the objection is overruled, and Mr. Civil Party, please respond to the last question put to you by the Deputy Co-Prosecutor, if you still remember it. President, it seems that the Civil Party does not recall the last question. For that reason, Deputy Co-Prosecutor, please repeat your last question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Civil Party, were there any Cham people in your group that was moved to Svai Kambet village who died from malaria or from lack of food?
Amongst the Cham people who were evacuated with us, there were 20 families, and allow me to say this, only 7 families remained from the death as a result of starvation and of other causes.
And can you tell us how it is that you know how the people, the Cham people who came with you, how they died? How do you know that?
I know the truth because I was living there amongst those families, and some of the families died. I took care of some people there as well, and I also involved in the burial of some of those people, and I still remember the location where the burial took place.
Thank you. Another subject I wanted to ask you about, you testified yesterday that starting in 1975, the Cham people in Svai Kling were no longer allowed to practice their religion or speak their language. I want to read an excerpt on the same subject from your brother's interview in the Cham Rebellion. This is document E3/7675, E3/7675, Khmer ERN 00221-853, French 00293-924 through 925, English 00221-859. And I quote what your brother said. During 1975, all practice of Islam was strictly forbidden. The doors to the mosque were closed. Qurans were collected and burned. Ta Long, the sub-district chairman of Svai Kling, saw to these things in person. Ta Yok, a member of the district administrative committee, called everyone to a meeting and announced that the women must cut their hair and that all prayer was absolutely prohibited. End of quote. Mr. Civil Party, do you remember this meeting that your brother described? A meeting held by the district committee where it was announced that you were no longer allowed to pray?
Allow me to say this, whatever you just read out is true and correct.
Do you remember whether you were at this meeting at which a member of the district committee announced that prayer was now prohibited?
No, I was not there, as I was assigned to work elsewhere at the time.
In another subject you talked about yesterday, you testified that about Khmer Rouge cadres from the Central Zone arriving in your region in 1978 and arresting the East Zone cadres. I want to read to you an excerpt from your own interview with OCIJ on this subject. This is document E3/5210, Khmer ERN 00218-572, English 00242-073, French 00334-652. This is what you said, I quote, "I saw the corpses which had been executed in the jungle." Continuing later, "After the invasion by Vietnamese troops in 1978 and the arrival of Central Zone cadres to replace the East Zone cadres, people were arrested and transported by truck to be executed in the jungle. I saw them taking the East Zone cadres into the jungle for execution." End of quote. What I'd like you to clarify, Mr. Civil Party, did you just see the cadres being taken into the jungle, or did you also see corpses at some point in time? Can you clarify that for us?
I myself saw them, and in my village it happened there, and I personally saw those corpses, and I even recognize some, namely Hop. At that time, I was tending water buffaloes, and I was thirsty, and I tried to find water, and I saw those dead bodies, including Hop, who was a cook.
And can you tell us approximately how many bodies it was that you saw?
I saw one dead body. However, I saw two pits. When I went to the area at night, the stench was strong, and when I went near, I saw the pits. But on the ground, I only saw one dead body, and I was scared, and I left the area.
This will be my last question. In this exact same part of your OCIJ interview, you continued on and said the following, I quote, "The cadres from the Central Zone were cruel people, and they imposed very harsh measures against us. Then they started indiscriminate killing against the East Zone people, including Dam and Chinese, on accusations of being a person with Vietnamese head on a Cambodian body." End of quote. First, why did you say that the Central Zone cadres were cruel people who imposed very harsh measures on you?
Mr. Sivapati, please hold on, and Council Coppert, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I object to this questioning. This is something that has been forbidden by the Chamber, reading out something first rather than asking an open question and then returning to the statement of the witness, refreshing the memory. We have abolished this practice, and this line of question should be prohibited, so I object, Mr. President.
I don't wish to engage in an argument. We have not abolished a practice. The witness was asked about the subject of the arrival yesterday. I'm doing follow-up questions, and I believe I'm entitled to ask the witness about statements he has made in his interviews on the subjects on which he testified yesterday.
President, the objection by the Defense Counsel Copper is overruled, as the question put by the Deputy Co-Prosecutor is not the kind that was abolished by the Chamber. in its previous ruling. It is part of the responses by the civil party. For that reason, the chamber will allow this question. It is not in the nature that the statement is read to the civil party and ask for his confirmation. And Mr. Civil Party, if you recall the last question, you can. However, it seems that you do not recall it. For that reason, Deputy Co-Prosecutor, please repeat the last question.
Thank you, Mr. President. My question, Mr. Civil Party, why did you say that the Central Zone cadres were cruel people who imposed harsh measures?
And what they did during the regime, and this is not from what I heard, but it is from the real situation that I was living in. The Central Zone posed stricter measures, and the killing intensified. That's what was happening at the time, and that's what I said.
And you told, my last question, you told OCIJ that the Central Zone cadres accused people of having a Vietnamese head on a Cambodian body, and that they killed Cham and Chinese people. How did you know that the Central Zone cadres killed Cham people?
As I have just stated, I know it because I lived through it. I lived under their control, and that's what I saw while I was living through it. And that's what happened under their administration at the time. President, Deputy Co-Prosecutor, your time ran out. And the chamber now hands the floor to the defense teams. First, to the defense team for Nuon Chea. And for the first session this morning, we will extend it until 20 past 10 before we take a short break. And Counsel, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to start with going back to yesterday, because I still owe you some ERNs. One of the first objections from the prosecution was about me saying something about 28 Khmer Rouge cadres being killed. And I have that for you. It is, as I said yesterday, in Kiernan. It's English page 264. The English ERN is 00678 636. Khmer 00637770, and French 00639033. One night, Chams killed 28 Khmer Rouge with knives and stakes, it says. That's one. Yesterday I was also, I suppose, reprimanded for using a Human Rights Watch report. My question that led to the objection was about Region 21 troops, or let me rephrase, troops wearing different military uniforms. I was indeed referring to that Human Rights Watch report. However, that report in itself refers to a footnote that is the source of that that particular point, and the source is actually Osman in his book The Cham Rebellion. On English page 84, it's document E3/2653. The book in its entirety is on the interface. It's English ERN 00219145. It says, at 9 o'clock I saw an additional force of hundreds just arrived, wearing uniforms different from those of the district troops. They had backpacks and all types of weapons. They fired heavy weapons and small arms at the rebels. Khmer Rouge boats swept the riverbanks with continuous fire. Sorry, I also owe you a Khmer and French ERN. Khmer ERN is 00221. No, sorry, 00221 French 00293925. So the troops wearing uniforms different from the district troops, that is in Osman. Yesterday I also spoke about Battalion 55 and one of its commanding officers, Prime Minister Hun Sen. This morning I sent to you via email a document E3/5261. That is a WRI of a combatant of Battalion 55. He talks about the suppression of the Cham Rebellion on English page 0027. I hear there's no translation in Khmer. I will start again. It's E3/5261, English ERN 00274-336, and up until now I only have the French ERN. It's 00285329, and it says that Battalion 55 organized the suppression of the Cham Rebellion in Tria sub-district, Svei Kleng sub.
President Council Copper, please provide the Khmer ERN.
If you give me 1 minute, I will do that later. In 1 minute, it's coming. So it says the Cham Rebellion was suppressed by Battalion 55 in Tria sub-district, Svei Kleng sub-district, and at Kopal. Quote, all 3 places were suppressed at the same time. And one page further down, I do have the English and the Khmer ERN for this one. English is 00274338, French 0028532, and Khmer 00250945. The witness is being asked about Hun Sen. He says, quote unquote, after his eye was damaged, he rose to take charge of the Sector 21 E regimental staff. Yoon So-fee was chairman of the D battalion staff, which received orders from the regimental staff. Hence my questions from yesterday, and I will refrain now, if that's what you would like me to do, Mr. President, from the Human Rights Watch.
President, please hold on, Mr. Cooper. You may now proceed, International Deputy Co-Prosecutor.
I want to thank Council for providing those ERNs. We would have avoided issues if they had been provided yesterday. I just want to make sure the record is clear here on a couple of the documents that he has just identified. With respect to the Kiernan reference to 28 Khmer Rouge having been killed, they're talking about a different place and location than the events we're talking about. In the paragraph right above it, when it's talking about Svai Kling, for example, it says that villagers with the machete killed a CPK officer and 2 soldiers. So the record should be clear. The 28 incident that's reported here is a different one than what is being discussed in these proceedings. Second, I'm glad that Council has brought to your attention the interview that was conducted by OCAJ of a cadre who worked in Battalion 55. Contrary to what he told you yesterday, this court has not turned a blind eye to this. It has interviewed someone specifically about this. Council is correct. This cadre who worked in the office confirms that Battalion 55 was sent to participate in this. What Council has not told you is that the cadre identifies the commander of battalion at the time as a person named Sok Sat, not Hun Sen, Sok Sat. And he testifies that at this time, Hun Sen was in charge of a reconnaissance section of 30 men. Later, took on a different position. So we have no objection to Council questioning witnesses on this, where he uses evidence that's before this chamber, and where he accurately describes the evidence. I know I don't want to spend any more time on this morning, Mr. President, I know, but I wanted to make sure the record is correct on this.
I suppose it would be worthwhile reading back the transcript of yesterday, because yesterday the prosecution didn't seem to know anything about Battalion 55 and the military uniforms. I don't think it is accurately quoted. The same applies to the 28. It's in the following paragraph. It's a paragraph about Kopal, 28 Khmer Rouge cadres being killed with knives and stakes. So I'm not quite sure why it's being said that this has nothing to do with the rebellion. This is a chapter about the rebellion. But I will move on now, Mr. President. Mr. Witness, Mr. Civil Party, good morning. I have a few questions that I would like to put to you. Let me first ask you questions before the quote-unquote Khmer Rouge came to your area. Did you have Cham family living either in Kampong Chnang, in Pursat, in Takiu, or in Kampot?
Civil Party, I do not understand your question. Could you repeat it?
Let me rephrase maybe my question. Do you know whether in the early 70s many Cham were also living in Kampong Chnang, Pursat, Takiu, and Kampot?
Cham. Answer. I only knew that Cham families were living in different provinces. They did not start to settle in those provinces in the early 70s. They settled in the country before that time.
Is it correct, Mr. Civil Party, that after the coup d'etat in 1970, many Chams became revolutionaries, joined the struggle against Lon Nol?
ខ្ញុំសូមឆ្លើយថា
Answer. We, the citizens, live in the country. When we are needed by the country, we will join and help. We at first did not realize that the regime became the genocidal regime. In every regime, we joined forces to liberate the country. Cham people are considered also a Khmer nation. We are happy because Khmer people love all of us. So we, Cham people, are willing to contribute to the liberation of the country and to the defense of the country.
Is it correct that someone with the name of Sosman had an important role in encouraging Cham to join the rebellion?
ខ្ញុំមិនស្គាល់
Answer. I do not know the person by the name Sosman.
Maybe you know his son, someone with the name of Mat Lee.
Answer. I have heard of the name. I do not know this individual personally, and he also does not know me either.
Have you ever heard of the Eastern Zone Islamic Front?
ខ្ញុំមិនដែលឮ
Answer. No, I have never heard of it.